Oh, we messed that up. There we go. That's better. What's going on, guys? You're checking out an all-new The RCWR show. This is your WWE NXT TakeOver Portland post-show coming at you for Sunday night of February the 16th, 2020. What is going on, guys? A very well-rested Lee Sanders here. For you wrestling fans, we haven't done anything for you guys since the Monday night edition of the RCWR show. And since we had the 7th annual Slow Jamming with Lee event that was coming up on Valentine's Day night, I really wanted to put all of my energy and focus into that. So if you were looking for a Wednesday night show, that's what was going on basically. But everything's going to be back in regular rotation as we're now officially on the road to WrestleMania and everything. This was a refreshing pay-per-view event to have on the WWE Network tonight because I like that we got an NXT TakeOver event that was just a standalone, that was not interfering with, as far as I know, any other pay-per-view that was going on this weekend, at least from a major wrestling promotion. And then, not to mention, this was also very nice. I felt that NXT could just have its own respected weekend, not tied into the main event roster from Raw and SmackDown, not tied into a Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, not tied into a main roster pay-per-view. Just, hey, randomly just, here we are. Well, not that it was random, because we did get a couple of weeks of a heads up, but you guys understand exactly what I'm talking about and everything. It was nice to just see NXT have its own respected takeover, just flat out, right? And I definitely would love to see more of these happening from WWE in the very near future. So, hey, before we dive into everything, I do have a poll that's up right now. Take your pick. We got 2 polls. There's one on Twitter and there's one on YouTube. Go over, if you're checking this out live on YouTube, just click over on the communities tab of the YouTube channel, and you can cast your vote in that way, right? I'll poke my head in there in a hot second, but I do have the Twitter poll that is up right now asking you guys, what did you think about NXT TakeOver tonight? And so far, what I am seeing is 83% of you all gave the pay-per-view a thumbs up. Meanwhile, 17% of you gave the pay-per-view a thumbs down. So I would be surprised if that 17% that gave the pay-per-view a thumbs down gave the pay-per-view a thumbs down, because you could make the argument that with regards to the matches that went down tonight, you could almost say that as far as the structure of the matches goes, it was almost literally the same way to a certain degree, at least up until you got to the main event match, so to speak. By the way, let's talk about that main event match. By the way, I know we're kind of going a little bit all over the place there, but just that last burning image that's in your mind there of Adam Cole, baby, somehow retaining his NXT Heavyweight Championship. I mean, you had everybody and their mama coming out there trying to do their best to help the man retain his title. Kylie O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, right? Just everybody, Roderick Strong, everybody coming out there trying to do their part while the referee is basically distracted, and eventually he takes a bump, so he's out and everything. And you're just going, here's the numbers game right here. Here it is. Here comes that nice, good, strong fuck finish. Here we go. And somehow, despite all of those odds and storyline-wise, we see that Tommaso Ciampa is able to overcome all of this. And just when it seems like, okay, since this guy wants to play dirty, all right, well, you know what? 2 can play that game. You know what? Fuck it. He's going for Goldie, and he's going to use it to the best of his ability after he's essentially taken out the other members of the UE. And you see freaking Johnny Gargano is right there at ringside, kind of rooting him on and everything. And he's going for that championship. Gargano grabbing that championship belt, Tommaso kind of looking at him as if, what's going on here? What is it, bro? And I don't know how you guys were thinking, but when I was seeing that all play out, one of the first things I said to myself was, well, maybe what Johnny Gargano is going to do, just considering the fact that we just saw these guys as DIY a couple of weeks ago and everything, maybe this is going to be a case where Gargano is going to say to Tommaso, no, not like that. I'm not going to have you win the title like that. Go out there and do it the right way. I was thinking maybe that was kind of the area we were going to be going in. But no, that's not what happened. Gargano grabs the championship. Tommaso's looking at him like, what the hell? And just Gargano cold clocks him in the head with the championship, thus setting up Adam Cole to pick up the leftovers and be able to retain his championship that way. So, as far as I'm concerned, if there was ever somebody that at this point needs to be a new honorary member of the UE, the Undisputed Era, it needs to be Johnny Gargano, Johnny frickin' Wrestling, right? So, I mean, you are trying to understand the storyline of this, right? Why would Johnny Gargano do this? We just saw this man team up with Tommaso a couple of weeks ago. Why would he go in this direction? This doesn't quite make a lot of sense here. Well, the one thing that kind of makes a little bit of sense is both men's obsession with that NXT championship title and always feeling as though they are the superior one over the other, right? So it could be one of those type of deals where honestly Johnny Gargano is saying, you know what, despite all of the problems that I may have with the Undisputed Era, as far as between you or I becoming the NXT World Heavyweight Champion, hey, if it's a position where I got to choose between you, me, or Cole, I'm sorry, but I would rather have Cole have the championship. Hey, Tommaso, better than Cole than you, right? It's kind of one of those, if I can't have it, then neither will you, right? Kind of one of those type of deals. But then you also can't help but kind of rewind it back to what happened with Gargano's match there with Finn Balor. Just what exactly was his mindset with regards to that match? Was there maybe a part of him that was a bit perturbed, a bit irritated that his boy Tommaso didn't come out there and maybe try to help him out? Is it possible that, right, there's so many things that's going into it, but I kind of like what I said to you guys earlier. I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards that direction as far as why Gargano had did what he did. But one thing is safe for certain, doesn't appear as though Gargano is going to be a future member of the UE. Like I said, that would be a very fresh, interesting development, a nice new layer you could add into the mix if you wanted to go in a direction where freaking Gargano becomes an honorary member, right? But I don't see that happening whatsoever. So, and not to mention, now see, here's the other thing. Here we are in 2020. And the way things are looking right now is we're going to be seeing months upon months of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa feuding with each other. And see, we've already done this. We did this 2 years ago. And I know a lot of people were really invested into it. A lot of people, including myself, enjoyed it. But even I had reached a point where, okay, we've seen everything that these two men have been able to throw at each other. It's about time now to pump the brakes a little bit and let's see these two men branch off into other rivalries with other folks, right? Like, let's go ahead and separate these guys. But it seems that things have come back full circle yet again for Tommaso and Gargano. In 2020, I kind of feel as though here's why this old wrinkle is new. This old wrinkle is new from the standpoint of you've got newer fans that are finally giving the NXT product a chance. They're coming on board. The people that a few years ago would not go out of their way, even though they had the WWE network and they could watch NXT at any time, they would not do it. They just would not do it. And I know that sounds lazy as I don't know what. I know that sounds stupid. That sounds bogus, but it's legit. There are so many people that before NXT had hit the network, USA Network that is, they would not invest the time or day into checking it out on the WWE Network, a paying subscription that they're paying for monthly, mind you, right? But now that it is on USA Network, people are going more and more out of their way to check out the product, and a lot of them are going, wow, I can't believe all this time I have been dodging this. Wow, right? So even though you've got fans such as you and I that are veteran NXT fans, and we've seen Gargano and Tommaso go at it before, for the newer fans that have come on board, particularly since NXT has been on the USA Network, it's new to them. So I don't like it, but I understand kind of why we're going in this direction and everything, right? So I'm okay with it. But then, you can't help but wonder how much patience are these guys, I'm talking about the fans, how much patience are the fans going to be having for this feud? Are they going to have the same temperament almost to the degree of what we had when we were seeing it all play out exclusively on the WWE Network? Only time is going to tell. But I tell you what, given the recent interview that Triple H had did, and I'm kind of reminded about it constantly, which is he was asked, hey, and this was on WWE Backstage, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, but it was on WWE Backstage several weeks ago. He was asked, hey, if you can get in the ring with somebody, who would you like to get in the ring with? What young up-and-coming dudes you like to get in the ring with? Or is there anybody maybe, in NXT that you'd like to work with? Who you eyeballing? And Triple H had said, well, there's two people I would love to work with. I would love to work with Johnny Gargano because I see a lot of Shawn Michaels in Gargano. So he's one I would love to face. And then the other guy I would love to face is Tommaso Ciampa. I see a lot of myself in Tommaso, right? So I say that because if Triple H has that much high respect for those two guys, then seeing that this feud is being revisited and everything, that just kind of gives me that seal of approval that Triple H feels that these two men, even though they did what they did for the network, these two men, they're going to be able to take it into new heights on the USA Network and everything. So I can't wait to see how all of that is going to play out. But I'm most curious what is going to be the story that they're going to be panning out for Gargano doing what he did there. We'll know, but I wouldn't be surprised if just some of those bullet points I had laid out, if maybe that's what they were going to be ending up going with. Hey, overall though, that was a killer freaking match between Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa. A killer freaking match. Tommaso Ciampa, man, I just love his overall temperament and his overall ring psychology. And to what Triple H was saying about how he sees himself in Tommaso, it's just one of those things where, and you don't really see too many of the newer wrestlers do this on the main roster today, but Tommaso Ciampa is a good example of someone that constantly is thinking inside of the ring. And what I mean by that is not only is he thinking about the moves that he's doing on his opponent, but he's also thinking about how much emphasis he's putting into that respected move. He is thinking about just oh man, oh yeah, I got to make sure I'm making these facial expressions. I got to make sure I'm making these little small gestures. There's not really too many guys on the roster overall. I'm combining all of them now. There's not really too many guys that can do those things. Guys that jump out to me off the break. I see Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Randy Orton. Who's another one? Rey Mysterio whenever he's there. I just said Tommaso Ciampa. He's definitely one. Gargano is another. See who else? Who else is somebody that sells? Seth Rollins did not at first, but now he's finally starting to come around. I would say Drew McIntyre is one that pretty well rounded. He's pretty solid, right? But there's only a handful, to my point. There's only a handful that you can point at, and so it's nice to see a guy like Tommaso Ciampa be able to really tell the type of story and set the tone that he's trying to set for the viewers at home and those live in attendance. And I'm a big fan of his work. Big fan of his work. And if you want to see a great example of that, just look at when Adam Cole gets in the ring and he throws up the hand gestures to do the Adam Cole, baby. And Tommaso Ciampa just creeps up behind him. And he's there the whole freaking time. And he just has this... Yeah, it's not a mean mug, even though you could pretty much sum it up as that. But just the way his facial expression was when he was selling that right there, that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. So Tommaso is really good at all of those little things. And he's also really good at improv. Another good example of that tonight in the match. You see the spot where all the action spills out outside of the ring, right? And then you've got freaking Tommaso. He sends Cole crashing through the barricade or whatever, over the table, some silly little spot that went down over there. It's a cool spot. But you see freaking Tommaso, he's sitting up on top of the barrier and the fans are cheering. They're liking what they're seeing. And you see this one bald head white guy who's loving everything that he's seeing. And he's throwing a high five out there to Tommaso. And Tommaso, you're going, well, surely with a high five that close, right? I mean, literally in your face. Surely you're going to reciprocate. You're going to give him a high five, right? Man, Tommaso said, bump that. He actually grabbed the dude by his ears and kissed him on his freaking forehead and his bald head. I loved it. And the guy is just, he's wilding out, right? I put a tweet out. I said, that guy is going to remember that moment for the rest of his life. He's never going to wash his face or his head again if he can help it, right? Because he just got his night made by Tommaso kissing him, right? That's just awesome, right? So, yeah, Tommaso is just a freaking master at that. The match itself, though, I got to say, I enjoyed it pretty good. I don't really have complaints about that match whatsoever. They told a really good story. I know we're kind of going a little bit, all over the place, but let's kind of pick it up from the top and everything. So we did have the pre-show that went down tonight. Pre-show was only about 30 minutes long. If you had missed it, it's okay, because man, there's a lot of stuff that was going on this weekend, even earlier tonight. Okay, so check it. This weekend was the NBA All-Star break. So tonight they had pretty much the finale of it all, the East versus West, right? The All-Star game itself, right? So you've got that on. And then a little bit earlier, you had two XFL games that were on, right? So I'm looking forward to the Monday show because I'll definitely be talking about the XFL. I'll definitely be talking about the NBA All-Star Weekend. So, we kind of want to just keep it grounded to take over for tonight. But I'm looking forward to talking about all of those things with you guys. But when you just look at everything that was panning out for this weekend and then going particularly into Sunday, you had a lot of real estate out there, right? So if you were maybe checking out some of those other things that aired earlier tonight and you didn't check out the pre-show, you didn't miss anything as far as a dark match or a pre-show match. Because again, it was only 30 minutes long. You had Charlie Caruso, Sam Roberts, Mustafa Ali. And I got to tell you, Mustafa Ali, he did a phenomenal job with that pre-show panel. He really, really did. And I'm not just saying that. He is very well-spoken, very soft-spoken, comes off very intelligent, and right down to the point, I'm wondering, was he in college? And if he was in college, what was he in college for? Was he by chance in college for radio broadcasting, television production or something? Because he came off as a natural. I BS should not, and I would definitely encourage you guys, if you didn't check out the pre-show, go peep that out. It's just, I was amazed. I was really amazed. He did a better job than, and to Joshua in the chat, without a doubt, the All-Star, just kind of touching upon it one last time, without a doubt, the All-Star game was remembering Kobe. That's a no-brainer. That's I'm not saying that in a snide type of way, but that's a no-brainer. You could have been watching Friday night, and you could have been watching. Yeah, I get my guys mixed up. Thank you for the correction. I'll make that correction. Hang on. But they were honoring him Friday. They were honoring him Saturday. Hell, even when they were doing the roast. And at the end of the Inside the NBA roast here, Ernie and them, they brought up Kobe. Without a shadow of doubt, we all knew that before the NBA All-Star Weekend was going to be happening, that without a doubt, hey, we lost David Stern, one of the best NBA commissioners, and we had lost Kobe Bryant. Yeah, it's a no-brainer that they were going to be honoring, and I did see the Dr. Dre video tribute. I did share that on the Facebook page and all that. But again, we're not going to be having any more talk of the NBA. If you guys want to get my thoughts on NBA, second week in the XFL, we got the Monday night show for that, because we go a little bit more all over the place. We want to keep this as condensed as possible, talking about just the NXT TakeOver. And a correction to make, not Mustafa Ali, Mansoor was the guy that I was very impressed with that was on the pre-show panel. He did a phenomenal job. But yeah, I'm very curious now what's going on as far as his background. Did he study radio broadcasting, TV at all? I'm very curious, because he came off as a natural. And for those of you that are maybe kind of wondering, Lee, I don't quite understand what exactly was going on with Mansoor being there for the pre-show panel. It doesn't quite make a lot of sense to me whatsoever. It's simple, and I would hope that WWE is thinking like this, and they're thinking a couple of moves ahead as far as playing that game of chess, right? But putting him out there the way that they did, you got the Saudi Arabia joint right around the corner, right? You got the what's the joint that they got coming up? I think it's the WWE Super Showdown show that they got coming up, right? So if you want to try to have Mansoor be out there, this is actually a good time to do it, rather than have it be a situation where, we're just going to go on ahead and we'll just wait until the actual pay-per-view pops up out there. Yeah, then we'll go on ahead and we'll do it. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? Super Showdown is going to be coming up on February the 27th. So at this point, that only leaves you with about, God, it feels like maybe about a week and a half or whatever. I'm actually looking at it right now. That only leaves you, that essentially leaves you with about a week and a half, because the 27th of February is going to be hitting on the 27th of Thursday. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with putting him out there. And I don't want people to be so narrow-minded and just think, oh, well, because he had one that, no. You could kind of include that, but I need you to broaden out even more. Think from the standpoint of this, which is, hey, you got the Saudi Arabia show coming up in a couple of weeks, right? And he is that guy that essentially bridges the gap to that, because he's been involved in practically all the Saudi Arabia shows so far. So, not for nothing, but also, we did see him off and on past couple of times over the course of a couple of months on NXT. Had some pretty good outings and everything. Yeah, come on, you really didn't need him on the card tonight. The card was pretty much stacked as it is and everything. Could you maybe use him as Super Showdown gets a little bit closer? Yeah, you definitely could. I don't think it was just a random thing that WWE bookers had him there. I think that eventually, I think between now and Super Showdown, we're going to be seeing more of him, and essentially there's going to be, I don't mind it. That's my whole thing. I saw some people, a small group of people that were kind of scratching their heads, and they thought it was kind of stupid that Mansoor was out there and everything. But me personally, I didn't have a problem with it whatsoever. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying on the show a couple of weeks ago, which was, look, don't be surprised if Mansoor ends up having this one hell of a impressive win-loss record when it comes to exclusively the shows in Saudi Arabia, and everything culminates in him getting a World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. And I told you guys, word for word, my exact words were, now I'm not sure if he is going to win the World Heavyweight Championship, but you kind of, that's an automatic that you got to put him in a World Heavyweight Championship match, right? So he did an impressive job, and I know everybody is really irked out with Sam Roberts. And Sam, I'll say this much about Sam. Sam and WWE knows that there are a majority of fans that do not like him. That's very established. And to WWE's credit, they use all of those things to their advantage. And the fact that the fans, I'll say this one more time, and I'm not going to keep saying it again to sound like a broken record and be sounding exhausting, because it's not fair to the folks that's been listening to the shows every single week, right? But last time I'm going to say this, which is Sam Roberts and WWE, what they got going on right now, it's kind of cool when you think about it. Because I will say this, Sam Roberts, he's come a long way. He's come a long way. I will definitely say that. And when I say he's come a long way, I'm not talking about before WWE. I'm saying since he's had his business relationship with the WWE, he's come a long way. And WWE, here's where it gets confusing. WWE realizes that even though Sam Roberts is getting the reactions that he's getting on social media, what they're perceiving is, oh, he's got some type of a reaction that's, what it actually is that go away heat, and, sadly, look, if it was a case where Sam Roberts wasn't doing radio and he didn't have all the respected connections that he's been having all of these years, which essentially has brought him to the dance and everything, I don't even think we'd be talking in 2020 about a Sam Roberts in the WWE. That's straight up, right? Did Mansoor do a excellent of enough job that it made Sam Roberts look pretty bad, considering when Sam Roberts had first came in and everything? Yeah, bet you bottom dollar, Sam Roberts did look pretty bad, right? Mansoor did outshine Sam Roberts tonight, but I'm not going to be one of those type of people that's going to come on here and going to say, this person needs to lose their job, this person needs to be fired, and I'm not going to be coming like from that standpoint. If you ask me what's my personal preference, that's one thing, but calling for somebody's job, I'm not down with that. I have an old saying, which is this, and I've been saying it for years, and it came from one of my former bosses, which was, I respected him tremendously. I'd probably be still working for him to this day, but I decided to go on to bigger and better things. But one of the things that he always used to say, and I've always said it since, was employers do not fire people. People fire themselves. And one of the main reasons why people fire themselves is because they ain't doing their job properly, right? So Sam Roberts is obviously doing something to the best of his ability and then some to continue to have a job over and over again, right? But that's the fucking pre-show. Let's talk about some of these matches, man. All right, so our first matchup, we had saw see here, looking at my notes, it was Keith Lee defending his NXT North American Championship against Dominic Dijakovic. This was your opener, and as I had alluded to on the show a couple of weeks ago, I said on paper that Keith Lee and Dijakovic was probably going to be one of my main matches that a lot of people I felt were going to be sleeping on because they really weren't expecting that much. But I jumped out there and said, don't be surprised if maybe this match ends up being a respected match of the year candidate. I said this one is probably going to be a sleeper hit among people. And that's exactly what we had got tonight between these two big men. My hat's off to both of these men and to whoever was booking these matches as far as the ordering for things to open up with that. I thought it was very, very smart how they had set that one up and everything. I know somebody, before people even ask, I know Poppy and her band, they had opened up the takeover event. Sadly, I put the music on mute. Reason being, I put the music on mute. I listened to like the first maybe 3 minutes, and it just was not for me. And I know there's a lot of Poppy fans out there. It's just not for me, which is weird. Because I've been trying to think as far as why, Poppy's not clicking with me, because normally I would be into that type of stuff. I'm into Billie Eilish. I'm into Bjork, Blonde Redhead, How to Destroy Angels, right? So this would kind of be right up my alley, but I don't know what it is, but the little bit that I've checked out, I just can't get into it. I think as far as the instrumentals go, that's fine, but as far as what she's doing vocally and everything, I just cannot get into it. I don't know. If I were to describe her to somebody, though, I will say this about her, which I'm very impressed by. She has elements of David Bowie meets Marilyn Manson, mixed in with a little bit of Tori Amos and some of those other acts that I had mentioned earlier. But off the break, those key names that I had mentioned, I really want to home in on as far as the I got a brain fart just now. As far as the David Bowie goes and the Marilyn Manson, combined into one, I can even see a little bit of early Billy Corben in there as well. But yeah, I can't get into her. I just can't. So sorry, Poppy fans, if you were looking for me to really jump all out there and really break down how I enjoyed her set and everything. I wish I could have really dug into that music, but yeah, I ain't gonna knock it. It's just not for me. But to those of you that do like that, teach its own. But yeah, these two big men in Dijakovic and Lee, my hat's off to them. This was, and I put a tweet out. I said, I'm really proud of Keith Lee and Dijakovic tonight. What an emotional roller coaster of a match from beginning to end. I said this was going to be the surprise sleeper hit of the entire card, and wow, freaking epic. And it really, really was epic. I love the spot there. Looking at my notes here, there was a spot that had occurred where there was a swinging back press from the top turnbuckle by Dijakovic to Lee. That was just insane to see that spot go down. And then a little bit after that, Dijakovic going in for the pin, only got him a near fall. Dijakovic gets on the offense for a little bit, follows in with some strikes. He ends up trying to look for a big move, but then he gets a running shoulder tackle by Keith Lee. Actually eventually goes to the outside of the ring. You see a nice cool spot outside of the ring where Keith Lee hushes the crowd, and the crowd is silent as he does his double chops to the chest of Dijakovic. Other than Big Show with his one-handed chop, I gotta tell you, Keith Lee with his double chop to the chest, ooh, devastating. And now, speaking of Big Show, I kind of want to see Keith Lee, Big Show now. I think that would be very, very interesting. But anyway, we see that double chop by Keith Lee, and the spot how it was all set up too. Somehow we end up seeing Dijakovic sitting in a chair, and Keith Lee does it to him, because I remember Keith Lee had actually chopped him freaking twice from what I remember. The first go round, Dijakovic was standing up and he did the double chop to the chest, and then just a few seconds afterwards, somehow Dijakovic ends up sitting in the chair, and freaking Keith Lee is getting ready to chop him, but then Dijakovic counters and everything. It was a nice sequence, how they had set all of that up. Going into the closing moments of this one, we did see Dijakovic come in with a super kick. He hits to the top turnbuckle, does a dive that was outside of the ring. Now, bear in mind, this was after Dijakovic had set up Keith Lee in the chair. He was able to chop him. Then he goes back inside the ring, hits up to the top turnbuckle, does a guy that big, and I mean tall wise, right? Such as Dijakovic should not be able to do those type of moves that he's able to do. That is one agile man, and that's not new to me. I've seen him do this stuff when he was wrestling in ROH, and I felt the same way back then as I do now, which is it's cool that he is doing these things that really he should not be able to do, but he's able to do them. But he could get a lot more longevity of a wrestling career. My personal opinion, to each its own. But he could get a lot more run out of that body if he doesn't do as many high risk maneuvers, right? I just cringe every time I see him do that, because one of these days my biggest fear is that he's going to do that and he's going to land the wrong way, and either he's going to have a serious neck problem or a serious knee, leg problem, and then he's going to be out for a little bit. So, but to see a big man like Dijakovic be able to do all that crazy stuff from the top turnbuckle, insane, freaking insane. Closing moments of this one, we saw Keith Lee and Dijakovic. They were exchanging choke slams, and every time it seemed as though somebody had the choke slam and they were getting ready to apply it, somehow there is a freaking counter midair. And that whole sequence, how they had set all of that up, that was pretty awesome. How they set it up. Lee getting the upper hand though, coming in with the devastating Big Bang catastrophic bomb there for the finish. And that was awesome, because that immediately had happened after Dijakovic had did the avalanche from the top turnbuckle. And that, again, all these high risk maneuvers, man, but I'm glad both men were able to walk out of there okay. And Keith Lee, I don't know if it was something that was predetermined or if Keith Lee was just really lost in the moment or whatnot, but there was a really cool, classy spot that he did where after the match was over, he's holding up his championship high. He goes over, reaches for the hand of Dijakovic, who's laid out on the ground on his stomach, grabs him by the hand, picks him up, raises his hand up to the crowd and everything, and he gets an ovation from the crowd as well. Real classy. It's just total freaking classy. Keith Lee, I just continue to sing the praises of this big man. He is definitely going to be a future force to reckon with for years to come in the WWE. And I know a lot of people are looking at him, and by the week, he's making new fans convert over. And I know a lot of people can't wait to see him come up to the main roster. He's going to do phenomenal on the main roster, but I think, look, let's be candid for a second. We've seen how things went down with Big Cass. We saw how things went down with Finn Balor. We've seen how things gone down with Ricochet. To a certain degree, we've seen how things have gone down with Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Asuka. You just can't help but wonder if Keith Lee is really, really, truly going to be able to break out, if he's really going to be able to match the great success that he's had in NXT whenever he comes up to the main roster and then surpass that. Only time will tell, but I really need for people to just pump the brakes a little bit as far as Keith Lee on the main roster. Let's just relish in what we're seeing of him right now in NXT for all it's worth, and just really enjoy the ride for now. That's my best message. Next matchup of the night, that looks like it was our street fight match, if I'm not mistaken. It was Dakota Kai taking on Tegan Nox. That match was actually pretty damn good. That match went about almost 15 minutes long. From the moment that the girls made their respective entrances, and I actually forget who came out first. I kind of feel as though maybe Dakota Kai came out first, but don't quote me on that. But I love that as far as the way the tone was set for the street fight. Basically, when Tegan Nox came out, right, she wasn't waiting for no freaking bell. She was fixing for a fight, right? And I love that big brawl, heated, I can't fucking stand your guts. It's payback time. I'm going to kick your ass. I've been waiting for this moment. I've been salivating on this for weeks now. It's finally here. I'm letting loose, right? I like that Tegan Nox had showed that gusto. I love that she showed that temperament there. And keep in mind, this was the first ever NXT women's street fight, apparently, because I kept hearing these guys, commentators that is, mention it a few times during this match. Your commentators, by the way, Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness, and Beth Phoenix. Awesome job as always. Mauro Ranallo, though, probably the best line that Mauro had of the night actually was at the conclusion of the Keith Lee Dominic Dijakovic match, where when Keith Lee was reaching for the hand of Dijakovic to bring him up, you got Mauro Ranallo who comes right in and says, RESPECT, rivalries like this is what, God damn it. See, I messed it up already. I wrote it down, though. I wrote it down. He goes, RESPECT, things like rivalries like this mean to NXT, right? And it's like, Mauro, that's pretty clever. Like, how long you been thinking about that, brother? That's actually pretty damn good. But no, the street fight there between the girls, fucking loved it. I thought they went out there and I felt that they fucking killed it. I loved everything that they did. It wasn't too long. It wasn't a short of a match. There were some spots that looked a little bit botchy, so to speak. But overall, it was actually okay. What I really had a problem with was the finish to the match. And I'm quite sure if all of the parties involved, if they could have that spot back, they probably would definitely take it again. And, I know everybody is trying to point the finger at who's to blame, but let's set this up properly for those of you that did not check out the match here in particular. All right, so in the closing moments of this, it's looking as though Tegan Nox is going to get the job done, right? It's looking as though, this match is over and done with. Tegan is going to pick up the W and everything. But that's actually not what happens in this, right? All right, so closing moments of this one. We see freaking the Tegan Nox. Devastating, shiniest wizard, right? That connects. And Tegan is looking kind of confused. She's looking concerned as she's looking on at Dakota Kai, and you're kind of wondering, well, no, wait a minute, sister. This is everything that you wanted, and then some, right? You've been spoiling to get your hands on this girl for a long period of time now. Why are you now feeling concerned? No. You got her right where you want her. End it already, right? And so, Tegan Nox, finally, I don't know what's going on, but character-wise, she finally snaps back into it and goes, I'm not done with you yet, right? And so from there, she brings the table that was set up outside. You knew at some point this table was going to be a factor, right? She goes back for the table, brings it on inside. She lays Kai on top of the table.
wraps up a chair around her head and everything, goes up to the top, trying to go for a high-risk maneuver, and we see homegirl Raquel Gonzalez, otherwise known as Reina Gonzalez. She pops up from out of nowhere, and she hits Nox, pretty damn hard in the face or whatever, and brutally launches her from the top onto the table. Now, maybe you could kind of say the distance of the table was a little bit far, because after all, it was Tegan that had set up the table, right? But when it was all said and done, when Gonzalez put homegirl through the table, I am the table! It did not crash. So, you're kind of looking at that going, what the fuck, right? Now, shout out to Nox, because Nox looked like a broke-ass pretzel. I mean, just the way she landed. I mean, homegirl looked dead. And Dakota Kai coming in there, picking up the scraps, gets the 1, 2, 3. Dakota Kai looking very confused, wondering what the hell was going on here with Raquel Gonzalez. And Raquel, picks her up, holds her hand up high, and you're going, okay. So, and if you really want to know who's been paying attention to NXT, who knows their talents, who knows, hey, that's so-and-so and all that, just look at the amount of who for for Gonzalez, right? And it's like, seriously, you guys don't know who this person is? Like, this isn't somebody that's making their debut or anything. This is somebody, and look, now, I will say this. If you happen to be one of those people that, you weren't checking out NXT on the network before they made the move to the USA Network, I'm okay with that, because I can remember how much praise I was given the first 2 Mae Young Classics and everything, and there were people that just, either because they didn't care for women's wrestling, whatever the excuse was, or their legit gripe, right, why they didn't check out that type of stuff. But, I can understand it if people didn't go out of their way to check it out, right? So if you're new to her, then you're new to her. But if you've been watching NXT for longer than a year and a half, you should already know who this woman is, because, we have seen her many times on NXT. It's been kind of spaced out, but we've seen her many times on NXT. I know she had did NXT house shows and everything. She was involved with the Mae Young Classic and everything. So, my point, it's not like this person is just someone that just randomly, no, there is some history that's there and everything. So, I gotta tell you, she looks pretty damn good this go round. Raquel Gonzalez, she looks really good this go round, because I remember one of the last times I had saw her, and I say this in the most respectful way. I'm not saying this as a put down or anything like that, but when I saw her, she was a thick girl, a nice healthy thick girl. But now that some time has passed, that's what happens when you're not really seeing her consistently on NXT programming. And you know that she's on the house shows and all that, but when you're really not seeing them on a week-to-week basis, right, all you really have to go with is, okay, one of the last times I definitely remember seeing them on TV. And, when you compare the last few times you saw her on TV to now, homegirl's toned up. She has toned up big time. And I'm liking it. And, she ain't got guns or, she's not chiseled or anything like that, but she's toned up quite a bit, and I'm liking that. I'm liking those big wide shoulders on her. I'm liking everything about her. Homegirl, I'm very curious to see what she's going to be able to do in NXT, and I can't wait to see this coming week's NXT to hear why she had attacked Tegan Nox like that, and what exactly is going on with that relationship, that connection there that she has with Dakota Kai. Breaking news, as it was shared all throughout social media, NXT UK TakeOver Dublin is going to be airing live on the WWE Network Sunday, April 26th. And before anybody asks, yeah, definitely going to be covering that. I'm thinking that's probably, as normally with our UK shows, our UK takeovers is a Patreon exclusive. So when we do get ready to cover that, that's going to be a Patreon exclusive. And yeah, look, not for nothing, but if you ever had thought about being a Patreon member, now's always a good time, right? Sign up, patreon.com/RCWR show. Little as $5 a month. You get to check out bonus audio, video content, exclusive shows, great majority of stuff you ain't gonna be able to access nowhere else. Let's keep it rocking. Let's keep it rolling here. We have Finn Balor taking on Johnny Gargano next. Shout out to Johnny Gargano, who loves all things comics, coming out there with his Marvel Comics Carnage attire. Was feeling that, and the timing of that is really awesome too. And because every time I get a weekend, I kick back and I binge on Disney Plus, and what I normally binge on is Spider-Man. So I spent several weeks binging through the 1981 Spider-Man animated series, and that was a nice fun trip going down memory lane because I was reminded of my childhood. And it's so funny because I was telling my girl, I said, believe it or not, even though this series was in 81 and then you had Spider-Man and his amazing friends in 1983, you know, I told my girl, I said, even though it was 81 and 83, I could actually remember these shows as a little kid. And she goes, my God, you know how old you were back then? I was like, yeah, but I could actually remember watching these and watching these with my grandma. Like, that's a good memory. It's like, I know, right? So I always am looking at Spider-Man on the weekends, and I think last week I had finally finished watching Spider-Man, and then this weekend I had began watching Spider-Man and his amazing friends. So I think that's kind of cool that, you know, here I am watching that, and a couple hours later, here's freaking Johnny Gargano coming out as freaking Carnage, right? Pretty badass. And if you know your comics like that, you know that there was no Carnage running around in 1981, 1983. Carnage did not pop up until the Maximum Carnage Spider-Man story arc that went down in the 90s there. But he had some badass attire. I love that. And then you're looking at Finn Balor. Finn Balor looking as chiseled and grizzled as usual, but he's got these weird red X's that's on his jacket and that's on his black tights, and you're kind of going, huh, is he maybe giving us a subliminal message that Killer Cross is going to be popping up tonight? Because we heard rumblings that maybe something was going to be going down with Killer Cross, and now you can't help but wonder, you know, if anything truly is going to be happening with Killer Cross at all with regards to NXT, because MLW is making some pretty bold claims out there, and I'm not sure what legal options they have at their disposal and everything, but let's just say Kurt Bauer and people, they are not pleased. We'll talk a lot more about that on the Monday show, right? But there was no Killer Cross. For those of you that was hearing the news all weekend, there was no Killer Cross appearance tonight, right? But hey, it doesn't mean that in the upcoming weeks leading up to WrestleMania that maybe, just maybe, right? You can hold out a little bit of hope, right? I don't know what it was about Finn Balor taking on Johnny Gargano, but there was something about this match for me. It just wasn't clicking. I was not into this match. I was disengaged. And it's very seldom I find myself disengaged from a Johnny Gargano match. Very rare I find myself disengaged from, because I know the guys by now, right? It doesn't matter what wrestling promotion I'm watching. Once I get an idea of who's who, and heaven forbid I'm watching via DVR, right? I can go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna fast forward because, yeah, I already know what they're about. I don't, when I fast forward, I'm not impressed. That's it in a nutshell. I'm not impressed by what they do in the ring. And I don't know, for the love of me, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something about Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano I could not get into it. And this was the very first time ever that I had a problem with a Gargano match, and not because of Gargano. Your guess is as good as mine as far as what issue it was that I was having. Look, have I been enjoying this new chapter of Finn Balor, basically, putting back on an old pair of shoes and right in NXT? Have I been enjoying? Yeah, because my whole thing is, look, if the main roster doesn't really know what to do with you and they aren't really sure how to properly utilize you, then freaking whatever. Let Hunter and crew down in NXT take you back under their wings. At least they knew how to freaking build you up and everything. But I don't know what was going on with this match. And, maybe we could kind of speculate a little bit, but some would probably say, well, did it have to do with the length of time of the match? Maybe you could say that's a factor. Maybe you could say that was a factor. That match almost went about 30 minutes long, give or take. I don't really think that match should have gone as long as it went, personally. I think that match should have gone at the very least about 15 to 17 minutes, right? So trimming the time, I think maybe that would have helped, because we really did not need to see another one of these. And I know Johnny Gargano does it oh so fucking well as far as selling everything but the kitchen sink, coming out there looking like a serious underdog. I mean, he does that extremely, extremely well, right? Extremely well, right? He just has that no quit, never die mentality, right? And I love that. I really do. But this was not for a championship. And granted, Gargano is a former NXT champion, right? Right? He's like one or two Triple Crown NXT guys or whatever. So, they built him up pretty good and everything. But I don't know. I think for starters, the length of the match, that's one. And then the second thing that I probably would go with is, other than cutting heel-like promos that Finn Balor has been doing and everything, for me personally, I just need to see more grit. I just need to see more nasty. Just get down and more nastier. I need Finn Balor to even take it a step lower, right? Okay, you might not be doing the whole Demon Balor thing anymore or whatever, right? But I need you to just, I touch up evil. I just need you to go just in certain matches, right? And I'm not saying he's got to go belligerent and he's got to get a steel chair or anything like that, but I need to see some more nastiness, tenacity, ferociousness coming from him. Maybe that can kind of swing me back into it, but I don't know what it is. And I'm not the only one that felt that way either, because there was other people that I was seeing on social media that were saying the same thing, right? And I put my thought out, long before I even looked up what other people were saying. But was it a good match? I guess. I mean, yeah. It wasn't anything that was, wow. It wasn't for me a match of the year caliber match in any type of way. It's not really a match I'm going to be remembering a couple of months from now or anything like that, I just kind of felt that the crowd was being too super appreciative and very appreciative of those guys. I think just because of the names. But that match for me, it really, very rare do I go into a takeover match and I find myself not interested in a match. And this was one of those rarest times. It's probably only happened, I can count off my hand. I don't even think I've reached 5 yet, but it's just happened a handful of times where I haven't been invested in an NXT takeover match, and this was one of those. Now, the next match, before we go to the next match, we did kind of mention it at the top there, but let me reiterate it once again. Johnny Gargano, he did lose to Finn Balor there. And like we had teased earlier, Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, reigniting their feud and all that, your guess is as good as mine. Was Gargano a bit perturbed that Tommaso did not come out at some point, try to help him out there with Finn Balor? Or, was this a case where when it counted the most? And here's where the storyline is a bit questionable here, right? Because you got a plot hole here. Okay, so if Finn Balor is pretty upset, or correction, if Johnny Gargano is pretty upset that he lost to Finn Balor, then wouldn't it make all the sense in the world to go find Finn Balor wherever he is and beat the living shit out of him? Why are you instead going to a guy who you teamed up with a couple of weeks ago, right? So I can't wait to see how WWE tries to explain this. Triple H and crew, they're usually pretty good at closing the gaps there in the areas that look a little bit, they usually do a pretty good job in clogging those, but I think they've kind of set the deck a little high on this one, but we'll see what happens with that. Rhea Ripley successfully defended the NXT Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, oh, the beautiful and the lovely Bianca Belair. I love Bianca Belair. I can't sing enough of her respectfully. I can't give her enough praise. I really can't. And what's so sad, I see that there are some people on social media, some vloggers that will always cover somebody that is a black athlete or a black celebrity or whatnot. They'll always cover them when there is some type of a controversy that is going on or whatnot. It's very seldom do I see these same people that, oh man, Keith Lee, that will just do something dedicated to Keith Lee, or just do something dedicated maybe to Naomi, or just do something dedicated to Bianca Belair or whatever. And I find it kind of odd, especially since, after all, it is Black History Month and everything. Now look, I'm a talented artist. And aside from the painting I'm about to wrap up for one of our Patreon members of Bray Wyatt, I'm getting ready to do a new piece of artwork where I'm paying homage to some of my favorite black wrestlers, given that February is Black History Month and all. And so, yeah, but I just find that kind of interesting that there's not enough, of those same people, those vloggers and all that every time something bad happens, there they are. But when something good is going on, they're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be singing the praises. I just think that's kind of one-sided, But then, hey, controversy, bad things, it creates whatever, unfortunately, right? It gets people talking. It's the clickbait and all that other shit. Not everybody wants to hear about nice shit. I get it, but to each its own. But Bianca Belair, nice ass ring attire that she was pushing, man. She came out there looking like Queen Sheba. And she also had probably as soon as I saw her, I thought of my favorite line from Coming to America, where you had the big black dude that was singing to Eddie Murphy and everything. She is your queen. And I just see freaking Bianca Belair, with the nice African little attire, cape and all and everything. Had the nice gold African freaking necklace going around her neck and everything. I was feeling that. And then you look at her cute little purple attire and everything, and the joint says Black History in the Making. I'm going, oh man, Bianca is like, oh, you go get it, girl. Like, go get it. Look, I gotta tell you, her and Rhea Ripley tore it fucking up. I gotta give those girls mad props. Their match I enjoyed quite a bit. And, with regards to the two women's matches that we saw tonight, both of them were really freaking good. And it sucks because if I were to honestly be unbiased for a second, and as far as which match I felt was better, man, it's almost a tie. But I kind of have to give the edge a little bit more to that street fight I really do. But what these two girls did here, Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, yeah, man, they got my respect. They went out there and they had a instant freaking classic. Yeah, I didn't realize how tall and thick of a girl Bianca Belair was until I saw her matched up there to Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley, she's a big girl, and I say that in the most respectful way. She's like a Amazonian type of big girl, is what I mean, like a Wonder Woman type of girl, right? And to see that Bianca Belair, almost matched up to her pretty well there, right? It's just a small little bit of a height difference, just a small little bit. But this one was actually pretty damn good. I gotta give him props once again. I enjoyed this one. Let's pick it up. Closing moments of this one here. Shit, looking at my notes here. All right, so we see Bianca. She did a leap into a big boot before popping up with a spear. Saw another series of exchanges where Rhea had connected with a kick and a forearm there to Bianca. Bianca ended up sending Rhea over the top rope with a massive back body drop. And that spot alone, I was really concerned about that spot, because to see as big of a girl as Rhea Ripley doing that spot over the ropes and then seeing how she landed, it almost looked as though she landed kind of funny. And I couldn't help but go, so close to WrestleMania, right? But she looked like she ended up being okay in that one. And then Bianca follows up, and she goes over the top rope, doing her own little spot. Like, we've seen her do enough of that, but you always kind of cringe a little bit more when you see somebody, it's a bit thicker and everything, like a Rhea and other cats that do that type of stuff. Or taller and wider, like Dijakovic, right? To the point that I was making earlier there. Rhea ends up turning the tide, sending her into the ring steps. Inside, eventually, they take it into the ring where Rhea connects with a headbutt. Bianca ended up blocking the sunset flip bomb as Rhea was able to hold off the attack that Bianca Belair was looking for. Yeah, because in the closing moments there, you had Bianca that was actually on top of Rhea in the top turnbuckle there. And, she was coming in with the fists and everything, and it was looking as though Rhea Ripley was starting to grab her from underneath. Rhea is seeing everything that's going on here, and she knows that she is in a really bad spot that she got no business being in. So at this point, okay, try to fight out of this and see if she can get the upper hand is, what she tried to do. So she was going in with the hits to Rhea Ripley's face and everything like that. But Rhea was eventually able to counter all that, turned it into the Riptide, gets the retain. It's a pretty damn good match. Rhea Ripley was not able to celebrate that long. Now, my question to you guys, do you remember, if it wasn't on Monday's show, it was definitely last week then. Do you remember on the show, I had said, look, if I'm setting this up and everything, remember we were talking about how Charlotte had showed up to NXT, remember? She showed up to NXT, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, they both whooped her ass, remember that? I then had said, okay, well, at this point, you gotta have Charlotte extract some type of revenge. So do you have Charlotte extract that revenge on NXT? Or do you have her, meaning the Wednesday show, or do you have her extract that revenge, particularly on Rhea Ripley, at TakeOver? And I said to you guys, if I'm booking this, makes more sense in the world to let Charlotte pop up at TakeOver. Well, that's exactly what we had got tonight. Rhea Ripley wasn't even able to celebrate that long, barely put the championship title in the air when Charlotte Flair attacks from behind. Rhea's down. Charlotte grabs a microphone. Charlotte pushing all black, man. Nice tight licorice leather jacket. Nice tight black jeans, black boots. Yeah, she was there on some personal business there. She was, put your boot into my chest and step on me, right? I mean, that's the type of attire that Charlotte Flair was pushing tonight. But no, Charlotte grabbed the microphone And she pretty much said to Rhea Ripley, I thought about it. And yeah, I'll see you at WrestleMania. Drops the mic, hits her with the natural selection. That's it. Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm going, now, wait a minute. And I even touched upon this again, if not last week, 2 weeks ago. So you got to have her whoop that ass of Bianca Belair. She's got to get the big comeback on both of their asses now. So as I'm seeing what she did afterwards to Rhea Ripley, I'm going, okay, well, that's Rhea. Now, what about Bianca? You got to have a receipt for Bianca as well, because remember, they both teamed up and jumped your ass on NXT about 2 weeks ago. What's up? Sure enough, Charlotte gets out of the ring. She's wooing and everything, sees Bianca Belair, grabs her, sends her running, crash first into the steel steps. Great spot. Good shit. Good shit. Love that. We got one more match to talk about because we already talked about the main event match. We pretty much had opened up with the main event there when we were talking about it. Let me see how we're doing on the show time here. See how we're doing on the recording time here. How we doing? Oh, that's not bad at all. So we're about an hour 12. So, so this feels like it's probably going to be about a 1 hour, 20-minute show. All right, so we'll talk about the last match, and then we'll look at the polling results once again. And for those of you that maybe want to, give me your feedback on what you thought about TakeOver tonight, now's the time to get the comments, type it up, get it in there, and I'll give you guys some programming notes afterwards. All right, so main event match. NXT Tag Team Championship, Undisputed Era, taking on the Bruiserweights, Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. And we got new Tag Team Champions in the Bruiserweights. Honestly, for me, this was the way to go. This made all the sense in the world. And it's kind of funny because the way that this team had formed, the circumstances surrounding it, and I would just like to be a fly on the wall, but maybe we don't have to be that fly on the wall. Maybe we can honestly just hear from the man himself, Triple H, and other people. This just felt like a stumbled overnight sensation that they just walked into that they weren't even thinking about, right? And, two personalities, two polar opposite personalities, right? Like how and what they have been able to do, I find it very fascinating. This alliance with Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, it is definitely right up there, respectfully, with Team Hell No or Team Friendship. And I don't know how many of you guys are aware of this. It pays to read Kane's book. I can't stress it enough because in Kane's book, when he talks about how they came upon the actual name Team Hell No and everything, it turns out Team Friendship was a name that he and Daniel Bryan both came up with, and they had the designs and everything ready to go, and that's the name that they wanted to go with. But when it came crunch time and the WWE audience was able to poll their vote for what they felt the name of the team should be and all that, it became Team Hell No, right? And Glenn was pretty disappointed with that. He really wasn't feeling Team Hell No. He really wanted Team Friendship, right? But even he said, hey, as far as because the way he thought about it, he was looking at it definitely from the commercial standpoint of what would really sell, for people of all ages and everything. And so for him, Team Hell No was kind of, that's kind of touchy there, right? Especially kind of during this time when the gears for him is already in motion, getting involved in politics and all of that other stuff. But the Bruiserweights, I mean, they're right up there. Just everything that's been going on with them, they're right up there for me with Team Hell No. They are right up there with, I'll give the nod. They're definitely right up there with Edge and Christian. They're definitely right up there with the Fashion Files and all that. I'm talking about as far as the quirkiness, the segments that you can do that have great entertainment value and all that. It's just really awesome. I'm finding how these two guys are able to complement the hell out of each other. And then you get these two men, they're in the ring together, and you're like, wow, this was the way to go. When it's all said and done, this was the way to go. You had to go in this direction because they've got that lightning in a bottle right now. And if you weren't going to pull the trigger tonight, when were you going to do it? Right? It's kind of like, okay, you did this for nothing then, right? And let this also be a sign that contrary to how some people may feel about Matt Riddle. I know he's ruffled some people the wrong way, and you got all these reports that's being put out there about Matt Riddle having heat this, heat, all this other stuff. What went down with Matt Riddle tonight, that should be a sign of a foregone conclusion that as far as any heat goes, what heat? What heat? Because if somebody has heat and you need to try to discipline them in some type of a way, you got to punish them in some type of a way, right? I don't need to say any more. But to me, just seeing everything culminate in new tag team champions, and there's no telling. They can do so much with this. Especially since it's the NXT universe and everything. They can really, really have fun with these two guys as champions. Just all of the segments that they can do. And I gotta tell you, it's really been more fun and interactive seeing what the Bruiserweights are going to be doing on WWE programming compared to what's happening on the flagship shows. I mean, not for nothing, but Miz and Morrison, it does nothing for me. There used to be a time where Otis and Tucker, but, I will say this, I've been more invested in the Otis Mandy Rose story arc, right? That's kept my attention. I will say that's been a good little development that's been happening. And I know there's a lot of people that's upset about the whole Dolph Ziggler twist, but Otis will get his comeuppings. Don't worry about it. We'll talk a lot more about that on the Monday show, but he'll get his comeuppings. Don't worry about that. What was going on with my man Bobby Fish, though? Because Bobby Fish, did he purposely dye his hair and his beard gray? Because, man, that just looks so odd. I've seen him all these years, and I'm looking at him tonight, and he's got all of this damn gray, and I'm going, wait a minute, I didn't see this a couple of weeks ago. What the hell's going on here? Oh, he's got to do something with that. But I love me some Bobby Fish. Closing moments of this one, we saw Pete Dunne. He had bit Kylie O'Reilly's fingers and snapped them to prevent the hot tag. Counter exchange leads to O'Reilly sending Riddle's spear into Dunne. So you see that little spot go down. You're kind of, ooh, all right, here we go. We got UE taking advantage here of a bit of a miscommunication there between Riddle and Dunne. Is this maybe how they're going to be able to just barely squeeze out of here and retain the titles? Because if you guys were kind of thinking like me, maybe they were going to go a cheap, dirty tactic, and essentially that's how this rivalry was going to continue. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that way, right? Riddle eventually gets dumped on the outside, and there's a chasing the dragon on Dunne, but Dunne somehow manages to kick out. It was a great false finish. And also, what happens here? Dunne manages to fight them. What's up, Sean? Dunne manages to fight them off, and Riddle finally gets tagged in. He interrupts a double tag team attempt by the champs, and the challengers hit the X-Plex powerbomb combo. Then they do the stereo kicks, followed up with the sleep Enziguri combo to end it all. And you got new NXT tag team champions in the Bruiserweights. Match was about almost 20 minutes there. This was actually pretty good. It's a pretty damn good tag team matchup there. And it was really looking as they were going into that main event match. Well, shit, if the tag team titles came off of the UE, man, is this going to be a clean freaking sweep where we're going to see Undisputed lose all the gold in one night? And then, oh man, what type of dissension, if any, is going to be happening as a result of them losing all the gold? Are they going to be pointing the fingers at each other? Are we maybe going to be seeing the end of the line there for the UE? What's going on there? But with how everything had panned out as far as UE goes, main event match, which we already talked about and everything, UE is still as strong as ever. When it counted the most and they needed to rally behind their boy, their leader, and Adam Cole, they did do that. And so for now, UE is still together. So UE still together. What's next for Adam Cole? What's the next threat there that's going to be coming to Adam Cole? We know that with regards to Velveteen Dream, and see, if I had one constructive, I wish that after the events that happened with Velveteen Dream on NXT programming, I wish we could have gotten a cameo by Velveteen Dream. Where was the balancing of the odds? I was a little bit confused about that. If you were going to have things end the way that they were going to end with Adam Cole still retaining, I'm okay with that. But not for nothing. Velveteen Dream, you should have inserted him in there. Not for nothing. You should have inserted freaking Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne. You should have inserted those guys in there when all of that controversy, the numbers game and all that, when all that was going on. You should have had all of those guys come on out there, balance everything out, and then have that one last card, that Johnny Gargano card. Pull that card. And, okay, so Johnny's gonna, and then you do the turn, right? If they would have added some of those elements, I actually would have been okay with that. But, no, and still a pretty good takeover event, nonetheless, I would have to say. Just kind of looking at these matches here again. So you had the main event match that ended in controversy. Bruiserweights really did not end in any type of controversy whatsoever, so that was fine. NXT Women's Championship, that did not end in any type of controversy. Balor taking on Gargano, that didn't end in any type of controversy. And then I'm playing out in my mind how the finishes came respectfully, because sometimes some of these finishes can be a little bit redundant, right? And there's really nothing that I'm seeing here as far as, so even taking that into consideration, tonight's match, I'll go ahead and I will say scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the shit, 10 being the awesome sauce. I'll give tonight's NXT TakeOver event, I'll give it I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'm willing to give it an 8 out of 10. Let's go back to the polls one more time. Again, do appreciate those of you that check out the show live, particularly those of you that check out the show on demand and on the downloads. Much love as always. All right, let's see what you guys had said on Twitter one more time here, looking at this poll. All right, so we've got 84. Is 80? Yeah, 84. 84.6% of you guys are giving TakeOver a thumbs up. Meanwhile, 15.4% of you are giving it a thumbs down. And I think that's our only Twitter poll that we have up right now. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's our only Twitter poll that we have up right now. And then let's see what you guys had said on YouTube here. Let me pull up YouTube here and see what you guys had said on YouTube. All right, YouTube. And remember, you can vote either way. If you don't got the Twitter, then go on YouTube. Interesting. Okay, so YouTube poll, we've got 36% of you that gave tonight's TakeOver. 36% of you gave it a thumbs down. Interesting. Meanwhile, 64% of you gave it a thumbs up. I tried to put that same poll up on Facebook, but it looks like Facebook right now, I'm not the only one, but it looks like Facebook is having some type of a glitch error that's going on there, because you can't put up any type of polls. You can do everything else, but it looks like you can't do the freaking poll in there, which is kind of odd. Hopefully that'll be resolved in a hot minute, because not only was that an issue on iOS, but it's also an issue on Android as well. So maybe it's a case where there's actually something wrong with the Facebook app itself. Probably the only thing I did not try was seeing if it would work on desktop. So maybe that's something I could try out when I get a free moment here. I'm just going through the comments here in the chat before we get ready to roll out for tonight. Once again, shout out to Sean. And actually, let me give a shout out to our Patreon members. Shout out to Sean Kenter, who's one of our Patreon members. Shout out to Freddie R. Freddie! Shout out to Michael Wolf. Shout out to John Davis. Shout out to Anthony Missionary Thomas of Wrestling Soup. Shout out to my man, Tony Bing Gaming. You want the very latest in all things Marvel Super War, Marvel Strike Force, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, Tony Bing Gaming. He is the man you definitely want to check out. Sean is saying, I'm not saying it was a bad show, but it did not feel as strong as takeovers usually feel. Yeah, you know, Sean, me and John Draper, and shout out to John Draper, we were talking about that briefly, and I remember saying to him, you know, it's very rare I come across a takeover that I just flat out did not like. WWE has a pretty impressive record for the amount of successful takeovers that they're able to do. Somehow they are, for the most part, able to surpass their takeover shows, right? Very rare do you come across a takeover where you go, well, this was okay, but it wasn't as good as, and, you know, Sean, to your point, you know, just kind of looking at that card one more time there. Let's look at that card one more time there. And I'm still standing firm at an 8 out of 10. But looking at the card here, other than, I mean, let's really be real. Other than the Keith Lee taking on Dijakovic, Dakota Kai taking on Tegan Knox, Adam Cole taking on Tommaso Ciampa, which went about almost 35 minutes there. Everything in between was, I got, you know what, I got to give an honorable mention to Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. I definitely got to give a respected nod to them. So that's 1 match, 2 match, 3 match. That's 4 matches out of, and what's left? Out of 6 matches? Let's see, 1. Let me give my top 3. Let's do it like that. Fuck an honorable mention. Let's just do top 3. My top 3 would definitely be Keith Lee taking on Dijakovic, Dakota Kai taking on Tegan Knox. This is a tough one because, again, we're talking top 3. My top 3. I gotta go with, I gotta be unbiased, right? Because I'm feeling that bias kicking in right now. I want to give the nod to Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it to them. And here's the reason why I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give them the nod and get the 3rd final slot because this was refreshing. This was new. You know, and we really hadn't seen their styles clash like that, right? So for me, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, you know, for one-on-one for a championship, right? You know, those type of new elements in the air and everything. For me, that was kind of refreshing. Whereas Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa, we kind of know what we can expect from these guys by now, right? So we already have that known familiarity with them and everything. So those would be my top 3. Everything else was kind of meh. So, and I gave the pay-per-view what 8. I'll stay at an 8. I think, no, you know what? It gets a 7. It gets a 7 because the poppy music I didn't particularly care for, right? I didn't particularly care for that. So that's a point deduction. So it gets a 7. Production, I got to factor in the production value. I got to factor in the commentating. I'll stay at a 7. I'll stay at a 7. I really want to give it an 8, but I'll stay at a 7. The ending of the main event, yeah. Woman's match was the worst match, but it wasn't a it wasn't as bad per se, but it seemed disorganized. The women's match, which women's match? You talking about the street fight, Sean, or are you talking about the women's championship match? That women's championship match, now that you mention it, and I am staying at a 7. Because now that I think about it, and it's great to be interacting with you guys because you guys help jog my memory on a few things. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember there were many parts in that Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley match that were kind of clunky, that were kind of... It didn't feel botchy, but it felt borderline botchy. Like, I definitely remember there was one spot where Bianca had tried to pick up freaking Rhea, and she actually had to put her down. She had to reset it because it was almost like she was getting ready to do something kind of ugly that maybe she was going to regret later there. And then when she kind of regained herself, she was able to do it correctly the second go round. So let's see here. Sunday Driver, you gotta try that again. We don't know what you're saying in the chat, man. Gotta take that out. I don't know what you're trying to say there. Let's see. Rich, Lee, I have to ask you, is it really necessary for these NXT superstars to make it up to the next level instead of making NXT the third division? How much showtime we got left here? We've been on for about 90 minutes. Let me give you the short answer. No is the short answer. I know you have the report that Dave Meltzer had put out, and you also have the report that other respected wrestling websites had put out there, which is as far as talents from NXT coming up to the main roster eventually, that the way things are done for the time being, they want the rosters to be frozen so that each brand can be very distinct. And look, I'm like this. It's not about necessity. However, it would be no different than if I were to have my own wrestling promotion and I have 3 separate shows, right? And normally these rosters, they don't intertwine with each other. Everyone is just very distinct, right? You've got Avengers West Coast, and, whatever, right? Just distinct, right? You know the origins of how everything came to be, but for the most part, the rosters are just the same, right? If I come across a talent that is doing extremely well in one promotion, right? Still under my company. All these promotions are all under me, right? At the end of the day, I'm the one that's writing their checks. If I'm seeing that over here on this one show that I have, it's kind of struggling because we're really in need of a new face for the company or whatnot, right? We need some fresh matchups, blah this, blah that. I would be a fool to not look at the other shows under the same wing and go, okay, well, if I were to pluck this person from this show here and put them over here to this struggling show that really needs all the help that it can get. All right, my first question is, what's the plan for this person once I pluck them and I put them on this other show? And when I say what's the plan, what is the plan for them in the next 6 months? Have I mapped it out for them at least that far? Because if I have mapped it out at least that far, then we're always going to be ahead, right? And then going back to the show where I just plucked that person from, okay, well, if I'm getting ready to pluck that person from this show where they have just been tearing it up, okay, well, who's the next person that is going to be stepping up? Who essentially is going to be taking their place, right? It is all about the mighty, mighty, mighty dollar at the end of the day. Short, plain, simple. It's all about the mighty, mighty dollar, getting the biggest bang for your buck. And given how everything had went down with the latest quarter reports and everything, Yeah. Yeah. Sunday Driver, did I participate in the summer of 92? The summer of 92 or what? What are you talking about? Dude, I am so confused by what you're talking about right now, man. What are you talking about? I love you, but we what the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about? Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Austin, hey Austin, how you been, buddy? I think Johnny and Ciampa will only have one more match at Takeover, Tampa. Austin, for your sake and mine, look, I mean, us veteran, we already know, but you just got to remember this could be a case where since now NXT is on the USA Network, let's do the time warp again, right? It's kind of like watching Me TV or something else. Hey, if you've never seen it before, then it's new to you. It's like, well, what about everybody else? Deal with it. It's like, it's kind of like Meatloaf again. Yeah, if you don't like it, go starve. Like, I guess I'll eat the meatloaf. Give me some ketchup. Maybe that'll help it out. Let's see here. Reading Shaba. What's up, Shaba? I'm seeing what else you got in here. Seeing what else. So yeah, somebody had asked favorite NXT star right now. Mike, who's your favorite NXT star? God, that's a tough one. It's a tie. No, actually, it's triple. It's a triple tie. Top three: Keith Lee, Bianca Belair, Velveteen Dream. Those are my top three. I love those guys tremendously. Everything that they do, I can go in with confidence every time I turn on NXT and I see any one of those cats come out. I can just sit the remote down. I know I'm going to be highly entertained. Those are my top three. And if I were to just go a step further and just crystal ball 10 years from now, those are the names that I'm looking at that's really going to be doing their respective part in carrying the company. I personally feel, and they are just off to a phenomenal start right now. But those are my personal three. As far as other individuals, I'm kind of looking at from afar, and I'm liking what I'm seeing of them so far, but they've got a lot of work still ahead of them. Dijakovic, he's definitely one. Damian Priest is another. And I'm continuing to watch Angel Garza. He's another one that I've been pretty impressed with. As far as Lars Sullivan, I ain't touching that. We talked about his whole little whatever weeks ago. Whatever new has come about with him, I will respectfully talk about that on the Monday show. We just wanted to really have this be all about NXT TakeOver. I mean, we don't have to be going all over the place with these, because it's pay-per-view recap nights, basically. But, we got a lot more we can do this Monday night. So, speaking of which, Monday night, all new RCWR show will be coming on as soon as WWE Raw goes off the air. We'll be live right here on YouTube. If you can't join us live, no fear. We'll have it be available for on-demand and downloading pleasure. So, all right. And then Wednesday night, we'll be back as well. We'll be on after AEW and NXT goes off. That Wednesday show, I love a lot because on that Wednesday show, we usually will not only just talk AEW and NXT. I talk about MLW, ROH, NWA, and the best part about the President's holiday break that I've had so far, because I basically got a 3-day break, I've been able to catch up on stuff on the DVR, wrestling and non-wrestling related. So I already burned through successfully 9 episodes of MLW Fusion. I like to talk about the shows when I'm in a really good position where I can binge after I watched about 3, 4, 5 episodes or whatever, as opposed to just doing it every single week and talking about them. That's just how I kind of like to roll. But I've already burned through about almost 9 episodes of MLW Fusion. I've got about 5 episodes of ROH I got to burn through. See what else. I've got at least 4 episodes of NWA I gotta catch up on. All right, so Wednesday I'll be able to talk a lot more about those. So that's gonna be real freaking awesome. I'm with you, Anon. I can't allow that in the chat, but I saw what you posted. I'm so there with you, man. It's like what happened? It's like I'm with you. That's a good joke, man. I love that. I needed that laugh, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Anon. Appreciate that. But yeah, also, if you didn't get a chance, check out the 7th annual Slow Jamming with Lee event. I've been getting private messages and a couple of emails with regards to that special. That was fun putting together. Man, all the stuff that I produce, that's one of my personal favorites is when I do the Slow Jamming special. So I got a survey. I've already finished it. I just got to reorganize the questions, and then I'm gonna blast it out to you guys on social media. It's a little survey. It only takes about maybe at most 2 minutes to complete, asking you guys that checked out the survey. It's really helpful because it helps me figure out what we need to do for future Slow Jamming specials. So you guys will like some of the questions that I asked you guys. It's real quick, to the point. When you see it, any feedback you can provide is greatly appreciated. But yeah, check it out. It was the 7th annual Slow Jamming special. That's like our 7th consecutive year that we've put that out. I think there was 1 year that we missed, though. I'm not really sure, but 7 years we've been doing it now. And I kick back for, usually 2+, sometimes 3 something hours, and I play old school fucking songs from all different type of genres. The one theme is all about love, nothing about love, romance, all that good stuff, good old school music, man. And that was awesome. That was awesome to do this year. I gotta tell you, because I compare it to the previous years, that one was my most favorite produced, and I think mainly because of the new equipment that I have and everything. So yeah, check that out when you guys get an opportunity. But other than that, I do appreciate everybody that had joined us for the show live. Please, I can't stress enough, if you enjoyed this episode, please, leave a like, and even if you do a dislike and you like to try to spam the dislike, I hope that's actually helping out my content still with engagement. Even though YouTube is going to be fine tuning that this year, YouTube is finally going to address the whole dislike bot angry mob thing that's going on. Even if you leave dislikes, that's actually still helping with the engagements and making YouTube suggest that people check out that video. So, but hopefully you enjoyed it. You leave a like, you leave a comment, and most importantly, you subscribe if you haven't already done so. You can get at me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use the keywords the RCWR show. And that is it. I am now going to go grab me a bite to eat. I'm going to let my dog out so she can do her thing. And then I've got NBA All-Star Weekend content to check out. I can't stress it enough. If you guys did not check out the Inside the NBA roast, go out of your way and check it out. That was hilarious. But I got more NBA content to check out. I got XFL games that came on today on the DVR I need to watch. We got a loaded Monday show, man. I'm going to be going all over the place on the Monday show, aside from just talking about Raw. So make sure you join me for that. That's going to be some solid good shit. Till next go around, wishing all y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. Oh, if you're looking for the audio version of this, there's not going to be an audio version of this. This will only be available in 2 places. This will only be available on YouTube, and it will be available ad-free, commercial-free, and all that for our Patreon members as well. All right, so no downloads for this particular episode, but that's it. All right, guys, much love, and everybody do take care.